You can go ahead and get started now.
Okay, great. It is 4 o'clock. This is the April 25th meeting of the LAVTA Projects and Services Committee. Can we please have a roll call?
Vice Chair Bonanno.
Here.
Director Brown.
Here.
Chair Josie.
Here.
And Director Halbert is not in the meeting right now.
Okay, he may join us later, but we do have a quorum, so we can continue. Okay, we have come to the point in the meeting where we are open to public comment. Members of the audience may address the committee on any matters that is within our jurisdiction and subject matter. They will have 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment?
So there are no attendees in this meeting today, but I did receive one public comment via email from the name of the gentleman's Weston Montgomery, and the agenda topic was service recovery process. He stated that he's a resident of Oakland. He commutes via car to Lawrence Livermore 3 to 4 times a day, or a week, sorry. He reached out about the 20X route, and he was delighted to receive a message that the 20X was coming back on June 6th. He said that it sounds like many other lab employees are interested in this service as well, and he believes that they can sustain a decent ridership if Wheels works with Lawrence Livermore to effectively advertise this service, as well as pre-tax public transit benefits through its internal website and new hire orientation. And he was just very thankful.
Wonderful. We're excited it's coming back too. Okay, wonderful. If there's no other public comment, we'll move on to item 4, the minutes from the March 28th meeting. Do we have any questions or comments on those minutes?
I'd like to move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second. Have a roll call, please.
Yes, Vice Chair Bonanno.
Aye.
Director Brown.
Aye.
Chair Josie.
Aye.
And Director Halbert is absent. This motion passes, sorry.
Excellent. Passes unanimously with 1 absence. And on to item number 5, the service recovery process.
Unmute myself. Okay,
Hey, Tony.
here we go. So I believe it was a couple of months ago, Director Bonanno had asked for some sort of description showing how our service recovery from our COVID low to getting back to pre-COVID levels was going to look like. So the purpose of this paper, it's an information item only, was also to serve as kind of an education piece for those of you who were not on the board when the pandemic started. This kind of gives you an idea how we ratcheted down service because of ridership losses, and then have gradually brought services back. The first service that we brought back was the school trippers, because school started back up. That was March of 21 when school came back. So we started all the school trippers back up. And then in June of 2021, the state announced that there was going to be a reopening of the state and a return to work by a lot of people. So we luckily that was during the summer, so we were able to ramp up some of our services during the peak hours of 6 to 9 in the morning and 3 to 6 in the afternoon on all of our routes, and back to 15-minute frequency on the 2 rapid routes, which is our pre-COVID level of service. Then school started back up in August, and the intersection of driver shortage and too much service on the street happened. And so we had to back off on the 2 rapid routes back to 30-minute service. So right now where we are is a 30-minute peak hour service on just about everything. And except for there's a couple of routes that still are not operational. The Route 11, which was a really poorly performing route. we don't have any service after 9 o'clock. We used to run much later than that. And a couple of the express routes, the 20X, which is the one that the commenter was commenting on, was one that goes from the East Dublin BART station to Livermore Lab. And it saves a lot of time for passengers who are going to work or coming back from work, because it goes directly from the BART station down 580 and then down Vasco Road, rather than having to get on the Route 30, which, even though it is rapid, it is not that rapid if you're going all the way from the BART station to the lab. So this is a way to bypass all the stops in between. So as far as where we plan to go going forward, a lot of that is dependent on driver recruitment. And so I would say that this summer, once the schools are out in mid-June.
Sorry I'm late, guys.
No problem. It was just me. You haven't missed a thing. So when school lets out, we'll have a little extra as far as hours of driver time available. So we're looking at re-implementing the 2 trips daily on the Route 20X between the BART station and the lab, and about 1/3 of the Route 70X, which goes from Pleasant Hill to Walnut Creek to the East Dublin BART station. We've had a lot of requests to resume that service as well. And again, some of those people either work in Hacienda or they work in, some of them even work at the lab, and they want to connect from the 70X to the 20X to get out to the lab. And I guess our next priority after that would be to ratchet up the service again on the rapid routes during the peak hours first, so that we're running every 15 minutes, so that we make really good connections with the BART trains, because BART runs every 15 minutes. And we typically, when we're running the rapids on 15-minute frequency, we're able to get people there in time to make a 7-minute walk up to the station platform. And also then the next bus will be the one that people who are departing the BART train, it just makes really good transfers when you're running on the same headway as BART. So I won't go into, I also included the pandemic plan that we initially started with, and how we went about those decisions. And so now I'll just leave it for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you for that report. I do have a quick question first, and that is where the timing of bringing these 2 routes back is as soon as school is out. And our anticipation, I'm assuming, is that we will be able to be staffed up again when school starts up again in the fall, that we won't have to make any adjustments. We'll just be able to add the school trippers back in. Is that correct?
Correct. The 2 routes that we're looking at, the 20X and the 70X, I believe between them take 3 drivers in the morning and 3 drivers in the afternoon.
Okay.
And so we certainly should be able to increase our head count by 3 between now and the fall, if not by substantially bigger number than that. So that's not going to impact the start of school. And the fair only runs during the summer, so we don't need those hours either.
And how many additional drivers does it take to run 15-minute intervals on the rapids?
Oh, gosh.
I can answer that question, Tony.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for the peak only, it will require about 4 drivers.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have questions? Director Bonanno.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tony, for that report. That's really, the background was great. I really got a lot out of reading it, and do have a couple questions. So it seems like we're somewhere in between the service level 2 and 3 at this point. Was that about right?
Yeah, I would say that, we're running 30-minute frequency during the peak hours on routes that used to run 30 minutes all day, and 60 minutes in the middle of the day, and 60 minutes 1 hour service in the evenings until about 8. That's like on the 1, the 3, the 8, the 14, the 15. We've gone back almost completely to pre-pandemic service level, because the Route 15 serves Springtown. Then it comes down through past the Target, past the Walmart, goes past the Lucky Grocery Store there, and then comes by Junction Avenue, Middle School, and then to the Transit Center. So it serves a lot of transit dependent, and it also serves a lot of key locations that people want to go to. And pre-pandemic, that was our 3rd highest ridership route. And so, it also serves Christensen Middle School. So the fact that it has 2 schools on it helped us decide, let's get that one back to closer to normal service, so that kids don't have to wait a long time before or after school.
Yeah, those are our Title I schools as well. I know they really, really depend on that service. So a couple other questions that I have. We heard from that gentleman who commutes from Oakland to the lab, saying how much the 20X is appreciated, and he's happy that's coming back. He also mentioned that maybe there are more riders, and it's just a matter of making sure people know this service exists. I don't know what collaboration you've done with the labs to make sure they, really people, lab employees. I mean, lab is busting at the seams right now. So there are potentially even more riders. People don't have, there are people sharing offices, and my guess is the parking lots are full too. So there may be more and more people, especially with high gas prices, who would consider taking BART and the bus. So anything that can be collaborated with on the lab in terms of advertising would be great. So my 2 major questions, I think, are, one is, how have we assessed, or how much feedback have we gotten on the impact of these cuts? I mean, have people just adapted to the changes, and we're not hearing a lot of outcry from the public that this is really impacting their life in a negative way? And I don't know. We haven't heard a lot back about the feedback of these cuts. That's my one question. And the second one is, assuming that around the margins we add a few things back, but maybe, we're not, due to just long-term effects, trends, drivers, as well as just ridership, is this or something close to this a stable operating point for the agency? I mean, could this be sustained if you say, okay, we're just never going to get back to 7,000 riders a day. We're not going to be able to turn all the routes back on or at the same frequency. Is the agency viable? I mean, I know that's a hard question to answer, and I'm just trying to understand what this place is in terms of an operating state. So the first question is, what kind of feedback have we gotten about all the reductions? And then,
okay, I'm glad you repeated that question, because I had kind of forgotten it. So really, the majority of the feedback that we've gotten has been about the express routes, because I think those people are the folks that are spending the most time, and with gas prices, having gone up. But throughout the process, the 70X and the 20X are the 2 that we've heard the most of. We actually, we did a public comment period. Whenever you reduce service, we are required by our public input process, which is part of our Title VI document that the board approved at the last meeting. Whenever you reduce service by more than 25% on any route, you're required to hold a public comment period. And because our initial service reductions due to COVID were emergency in nature, those were exempt from that requirement until we reached 180 days. So 6 months after those cuts started, we had to have a public input process. And we put signs on all the buses, notices on our website, and we received only one comment, and it was from a gentleman who likes our service and said, "You guys are doing a great job. I really appreciate the fact that you're still running it all." And I think people have just adjusted their schedules. If you're riding during the peak hours of 6 to 9 in the morning and 3 and 6 in the afternoon, which is when we carry the majority of our riders, you're riding at the same frequency you were pre-pandemic. So other people, I think, have adjusted their schedules. So haven't really gotten just barraged with complaints about a lack of service. And, you know, we're certainly not at a state of overcrowding on any of our buses, with the limited exception of everything leaving Dublin High School every day.
So maybe, does it make, I mean, so maybe this is a new operating point. I mean, I don't want to start a long discussion about the future of LAVTA, but I guess I just think that if people are happy and it's a stable operating point, maybe it makes more sense. I don't know. This is a new
Yes.
territory for me.
I think, you know, the LAVTA has an unusual mix of services. The two rapid routes are really the backbone of the system. Those carry about 50 to 55% of our passengers, and they also serve both BART stations. They serve multiple healthcare facilities, hospitals, both Valley Cares and the Kaiser facility in Dublin are on our routes. Las Positas is on the route. 3 high schools are on those 2 routes. And so in the transit industry, a 15-minute frequency, which is called headway in transit terms. So if you want to learn a new transit term for the day, it's headway. If they run every 15 minutes, that's called, you don't need a schedule. You just walk to the corner and a bus will come pretty soon. When you get to the half-hour frequency, you better know what time the bus is going to be there. And then when you get to the hour, that's kind of, you know, that's not really top-notch service. And I would say in the level of priority, you know, you want to get your rapids back to 15-minute service to make them truly a good service again. There are some of our routes that I think, as with any situation such as this, I mean, a lot of agencies went through this back in the Great Recession of the late 2000s, and use that as an opportunity to trim around the edges and eliminate some of the less productive services that they were running. And so I guess to answer your question, will we ever come back to where we were pre-pandemic 100%? I don't know that would be a recommendation I'd make. Do you really need to run till 2 o'clock in the morning on the rapids? Probably not. Do you really need to run till 11 o'clock at night? Are there other options? Go Tri Valley is an awesome program, but we really haven't had a chance to promote that a lot, because the Uber Pool and Lyft Line shared ride modes have both been offline since the pandemic started. So there may be ways to cut some services in some places. I think the hardest thing as far as the return of the ridership, that keeps coming back to me is the number of office workers who are going to be working some sort of a hybrid model. And if the people who are commuting on BART right now to either Oakland or San Francisco are only working 2 days a week, 3 days a week by BART, does the BART parking garage ever get full again to the point where our buses are a better option than not being able to find a parking place at BART? You know, that was when I started here 5 years ago, that was like our key marketing message was a better way to BART, because the parking lots were full by 7. And if you didn't want to get up and get to the BART station by 7, you could jump on one of our rapids and get to the BART station and just have an easy walk up the platform. But as long as there's parking, convenience of a parking place weighs against the cost of a bus ride. So that's a tough one to answer without a crystal ball. And I'm sure that there's lots of consultants who are making lots of money with bold predictions about what the future is going to hold, but I don't know that any of them have the true answer.
Well, that's all very helpful to me. I mean, I knew there wasn't an easy answer to that question, but just hearing sort of some of your thoughts about this, I guess part of it, we're going to see. We're going to see.
Yes.
And at some point, this will be something at a new executive director and the team on board right now will sort of have to contemplate with more data a few months from now than we have right now. So thanks so much for that, Tony. I really do appreciate it. And if you may already have a connection at the lab, but I know some of the folks pretty well in the public affairs office.
Yeah, if you could put me in touch with them, I'd appreciate it.
I absolutely will. Yeah, and they can send out the word that there's a better way to the lab.
Right.
I'm open. Thanks very much.
I think,
Great.
if there's one thing that really helps us as a system, as far as getting riders back, it is our school service. And, they were accounting for like 25% of our pre-pandemic ridership. And now it's probably closer to 50% of our total ridership is just from the schools. And, the fact that we built great relationships with all 3 school districts in recent years, I think really has paid off. And we really emphasize those services being on time. And we really emphasize the ability of parents to find out, where's the bus? Is the bus late? We've got an app that you can sign up for text alerts if the school service bus is late, because there's only one in the morning, only one in the afternoon. So you don't want to miss that one. And we've got an app that helps you find that out.
Yeah, I can certainly attest to the great relationship between the buses and Dublin High. And take this opportunity to thank you guys for scrambling to accommodate the change in schedule last Friday, given the tragedy we had over there this past week.
Yes.
If there are
No
no
problem.
other questions or comments on service recovery, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the executive director's report.
Okay, executive director's report. As Tony mentioned, our ridership is going up. It's not at pre-pandemic levels, but let's be honest, right before the pandemic started, we were at record levels. So that's going to take a little while, but we are at about 50%. So we're very excited about that. It went down a little because spring break, but if you still average it out, we're up. And there's a weird Wednesday trend where Wednesday has the heaviest ridership, and we're very curious to figure out why, but we're not there yet. So we have lots of theories, but we haven't figured it out. Our ad hoc committee today for paratransit met. They received 2 proposals when they went out to bid with our partnership with County Connection. Both were viable, good proposals. One scored higher than the other. And they will be working with that company to on the pricing and to finalize everything. So hopefully at the board meeting, we will have a recommendation for the board to approve because that's kind of huge. We have to have that before the new year starts. So, this morning, our landscaper started. They secured all our trees because we're only removing 1 tree because it's already dead, but we're saving all the trees. But everything else pretty much, except for a couple shrubs, are being removed, and they should finish that in a couple weeks. And then they'll put in the new irrigation system, which is going to save us a ton of water. And I'm super excited because we use a ridiculous amount of water, not just on that, but on the building as a whole. But that's going to save us a lot. So And as you know, I think everybody in the Bay Area heard, masks are now optional for bus riders, also for our bus drivers. But I was at a driver safety meeting last week, and it sounded like quite a few of our drivers would like to keep wearing theirs. So we encourage them to do so, if that's how they felt comfortable, and completely understandable. But passengers seem to be very excited by it. And our drivers are still carrying masks in case somebody would like a mask. They're just not stopping people who are getting on without one to tell them they have to wear one. And Tony was at a conference last week, but he still managed to create new signage for the buses, sent it in. Jennifer got it laminated, and maintenance got them on the buses very quickly. We changed our head signs. When stuff like this happens, this agency moves really quickly. It's kind of fun to watch. And let's see, we have the governor has been talking about 3 months free transit. And Jennifer Yeamans, and if you have questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to share. She's working on an analysis of how much money we would get from that, or potentially get from the governor's office for that. And then we're comparing it to how much we would lose in revenues on our fixed route. Not based on, there'd probably be an increased ridership, but how much we'd lose based off what people are paying now. But also, if we go fare free on fixed route, we have to go fare free on paratransit. And whenever we do that, it increases the paratransit ridership. So there's a cost associated with that. So we'll be bringing that back to the board so that the board can decide, if we should apply or not. And so she's still in the kind of research phase. And the bus parking garage, the construction contract has finally been approved. And the construction should begin in August. I say should because we know how construction tends to go, but it should be. We've been working very closely. Jennifer meets with staff from the county regularly so that we can stay on top of things. Our funding for that, just as kind of a reminder, because it's been a little while, we received $20 million. It's the county's project, but we're responsible for that funding. So Jennifer has worked very closely with them to make sure that all the rules and everything with the funding is followed so that we don't get in trouble on our end. And that is pretty much what happened in August, other than Michael Tree leaving, which was kind of huge. So that's what we've been up to. Next month looks just as exciting, and it's going to be a really good summer. So.
Okay, well, thank you for that report. And I see we have a hand up, Director Bonanno.
Yeah, I will express my ignorance about the Dublin parking garage. I've read a little bit about it. I don't quite understand what it's for and when it's going to be done. And I just don't quite understand the concept. And it's partly my own fault because I probably could have asked a long time ago. But since we're moving quickly through the agenda today, I thought I'd ask it here.
I was actually thinking, was she here when that started? Because
Nope.
It seems like you've been around a while. So Jennifer Yeamans, do you want to, since you have the details and the timeline and everything, you want to jump in here?
Through the chair, I'd be happy to, but I would also note that Supervisor Hubbard also has his hand up. And so I will certainly defer to any comments he may want to weigh in with before.
Dave, is that
Okay,
why
I'll
your hand's
start.
up?
Yeah, I'll start. That's fine. So we all know that BART has promised a parking garage for many, 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 many years. A few years ago, they formally reneged on that and said, nope, we're not going to ever build a garage here. We think everyone should ride their bike to the BART station. And, we're not going to build a parking garage because if we build it, they will drive more cars there. And nobody should ever drive cars. They should only ride bicycles. And so we're not going to build a garage. And so we said, well, how can we fill that gap, which was promised to the people? And we went to the state, not we, the state legislatures at the time, in this case, Catherine Baker, went to the state and said, can we get money for a parking garage to fill the gap that BART just made for us? Thank you, sister agency. And lo and behold, she got $20 million to build a parking garage, but she's not herself a transportation agency. And so she needed to find a transportation agency willing to take on the project in, administratively, for which she went to Scott, and Scott went to Michael, and Michael said, sure, let's do this. And we all agreed that it was a good thing to do, to be the agency of record, to receive the money and to process this garage. But lo and behold, LAVTA is not got a lot of capacity to build garages. So they said, how about Alameda County, your general services agency? You guys build a lot of things. Can you go build this garage for us? We'll pass the money through from the state to you, as we're a transportation agency and you guys supposedly know how to build things. And that was the beginning of the cluster mess, which then turned into Alameda County GSA not being the best of contract managers, letting things go time and time and time again, getting extensions of time and getting bid after bid. And finally, after some personnel changes that I can't go into, we found an interim director that was capable and able to get this over the finish line of a contract to build a garage for LAVTA, which was just a transportation holding agency for this $20 million that Baker got for us years and years ago. And that is the 3-minute version of this story. How's that, Jennifer?
Well, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot there, but I think you provided probably more relevant context to Gina's actual question in terms of what, as a board member, she might want to know about. I mean, I would just say from the staff side, I mean, we are, the total project budget right now stands at 34 million. And
the question is $20 million doesn't go as far as it used to. Right.
LAVTA represents the state's stake in the project of $20 million, which is only part of the funding. So there's regional and county sources that make up the balance. So there's a lot of administrative rigging, holding this thing up behind the scenes and getting it ready for the construction phase, which is now starting because the county did award their contract to the design builder last month. And as far as I know, that's going to be getting underway soon. I think there's preliminary site work that you'll actually begin to see, like things happening at the site. So that's the hope that will happen later this summer. And then it's a design build contract, which means that the contractor will complete the final design, the final drawings, and then they'll start actually building the structure. That might look more like later in this calendar year, because it takes a little while to finish that final design. And the game plan is for the construction to be complete by, I think it's March of 23. And so in the meantime, LAVTA as an agency has got to keep all the plates twirling with the funding and our responsibilities to the state. And so we continue to work with the county to make that successful.
Last dumb question. Where is this parking garage? And the property is owned by the county, or who owns the property and where is it?
That is a big reason why the county did get involved in the first place, is because the county did hold land near the BART station. And if I had thought to, I would have had a map ready to put up on the screen, but it's basically kind of like a block away from the existing garage on the Dublin side. It's a big, currently vacant parcel, half of which is going to be occupied by this future parking garage. And Jean's nodding her head. And I believe the other half is now slated, I believe, planned for affordable housing at some point in the future.
Correct.
Thank you very much. That in a nutshell answered all my questions. Thank you.
If I can just jump in, the concern, of course, is that due to the timing of everything, will it be built at a time when that parking is not necessary? And just to provide my own color commentary, I believe that the timing is actually perfect, because about the time it's complete is about the time that companies will have realized that having all of their employees only coming in 2 days a week is not what they desire. And I think we will by then have seen a lot more people are coming into the office 4 to 5 days a week, or at least 3 to 4 as opposed to 1 to 2. And the demand for parking will have ramped up significantly. So I think that the timing is actually going to be about perfect, is my prediction. I don't have the crystal ball that Tony talked about, but I'm optimistic that it's going to be here right on time to meet the demand. Dave, did you have other comments as well? David, your hand is still up. Is that still up from your comments before? Do you have another question?
It was up from before. I just didn't know if he had anything further. I'll lower it.
Okay, I think he's left us for a minute anyway. Does anyone else have other comments or questions on the executive director's report? Okay, perfect. Preview of upcoming committee items.
Okay. In May, we have the PTASP update. What that is it's our safety plan that we're required to do by the feds. We completed it not that long ago, and we changed the rules. So Tone will be updating it and presenting it next month for information. Not horrendous changes, but it's just kind of what they do. They want new things. So, and then in June, we will be appointing new TAC members. That's the advisory committee for dial-a-ride and fixed route. And so we'll see. I know they've been working actively to recruit members. So hopefully we will have a good group to appoint. And in July, unless something comes up, we will probably cancel committee meetings. We don't usually have an August board meeting either, just because things are slow and like all our funding agencies are on vacation. So there's not usually a ton going on, but you know, the last 2 years have taught us anything, is don't plan too far ahead. And then in September, we will have our dial-a-ride and our fixed route passenger surveys. And that'll be great timing because that'll be a few months into this new paratransit contract. And even if it goes with the same contractor, it'll be good to have that updated information. Plus, as dial-a-ride ridership goes up, it'll give us more people to survey. So that'll be good. And our fixed route passenger surveys, I assume we will do the same way this year that we have in the past, where we actually send our customer service representatives onto the buses to pass out surveys to passengers, answer questions, explain anything, that sort of thing. And then we'll compile them and hopefully have wonderful results to share. And that's it in the next few months.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have any matters initiated by committee members? Anybody have anything they want to see in a future meeting that they'd like to bring up? Okay, not seeing any hands. Our next meeting is scheduled. Sorry, did I jump the gun?
No, I was just going to say I have nothing to offer. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, our next meeting date is scheduled for May 23rd, and we will adjourn at 4:38.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.